So far in this course we've been having a look at the things that I would describe as the musical surface. In other words, the things that happen on a moment-to-moment basis as we're playing or listening to music. We started off by having a look at pitch, and pitch is a quality that sounds can have that makes us hear them as high or low, and that depends on how fast or slow the thing making the sound is vibrating. In addition, there is the way that we organise sounds in time, and that is of course known as rhythm. On a slightly larger scale, we can use pitches and rhythms together to build up things like melodies. So writing tunes using pitches and rhythms, and also harmony, which is supporting perhaps the melodies that we're playing with things called chords. But what happens when we want to look at a slightly zoomed out view of these things that we've been working with so far, like the melodies and harmonies? Because of course, most of the time in music, we are trying to put together a thing that lasts longer than a particular melody or a particular chord or a particular group of musical ideas. When we start to look at the ways that melodies and harmonies can be built up together into bigger structures, we start to talk about something called form. And exploring form is looking at the ways that composers plan out a larger piece of music by putting together various blocks of musical ideas. There are some set forms of musical composition that I'm sure you know. For example, a pop song very often follows a standard form of verses and choruses. And you might also know about the 12-bar blues, which also has repeating 12-bar choruses. If you've ever explored classical music, you'll also know that symphonies, sonatas, and concertos also have a very set form, and in many ways that set form helps us to make sense of the music as it unfolds over a period of time. Imagine I was going for dinner in a restaurant. Chances are there's going to be a very set form to the order of events that are going to happen. For example, I might go inside the restaurant and the waiter will find me a seat, so I will go and sit down. That's the first thing that I would expect to happen. The second thing, I would expect the waiter to probably bring me a menu, so I can see what food I'd like to have. Then hopefully, after I've chosen something, I will get some food, and so I'll be able to eat. And finally, I'll expect to get the bill. And I will pay it and leave the restaurant. Now, obviously, there's some practical implications as to why that's the order of events that has to happen when I go for dinner. But also, it kind of makes the whole experience very, very easy because I know kind of the expected form of that particular interaction, and so it makes it a very relaxing experience to go and have dinner in a restaurant. If, on the other hand, I went in and first of all I was given a bill for £50, I'd be a little bit confused because I hadn't ordered anything yet. I'd probably ask why I'd suddenly been given a bill for £50. After that, having paid the bill, I was then brought some food. Possibly not what I'd asked for, just some random food. And after finishing it, say I was given a menu to look at, which would kind of be pointless at this point because I've already had my dinner. And finally, only having been given the menu and I've chosen something even though I've already eaten, I'm then given a place to sit down in the restaurant. This kind of all seems backwards. This is totally the wrong order of doing things. And oftentimes composers know that we have certain expectations about how a piece of music is going to unfold, just like this dinner in a restaurant might unfold. And so it gives them the opportunity to help us understand the music they're writing by putting it in a particular shape or form for us. Now, I'm sure all of us will be very familiar with fantastic pop music that gets us all singing and dancing together. Now, there is actually an established form of writing a pop song. Sometimes people choose to break away from this, but in the majority of cases, people choose to follow this accepted form because it gets really, really good results. It sets up normally the arrival of this fantastic chorus where everyone can sing music together, and the music and the song can deliver its main message, if you like. So a lot of the time, if you think of a John Bon Jovi song or a Michael Jackson song, a lot of these songs are all constructed in a similar way, and I'll just try and write it down here. So most of the time there is some kind of introduction, and that's maybe setting up the key of the piece, or it's getting a feel for the rhythms that are going to be used in the music. And then normally the singer comes in, and this is what we would probably call verse 1. I'm sure you're quite familiar with this. It's normally, again, setting up some of the key ideas and maybe establishing a melody that's going to be used in the piece. And then, once we've had our melody, we need to sort of go up a gear a little bit, and that's where the chorus comes in. And it's normally in the chorus that we hear the singer sing the name of the song, whether it's Living on a Prayer or Smooth Criminal or whatever the song happens to be. It's in the chorus that we're going to hear that idea expressed for the first time. Then following that, normally we have a second verse, and chances are verse 1 and verse 2 are going to use the same music, and it helps establish a kind of pattern in our heads as to how the piece folds out for us. Most of the time, verse 2 will have different lyrics to verse 1. Then, after the end of verse 2, we normally get the second chorus. Now, the chorus is really interesting because it generally stays the same all the way through a song. So we've just had the same music for verse 1 and verse 2, but different lyrics. Oftentimes, the chorus will have both the same music and the same lyrics. So that establishes it as a really strong, important element of this song for us. Now, things sometimes change up a little bit at this point. Sometimes we get a third verse, but sometimes we also get a solo. So that could be a guitar solo or a piano solo. And there's kind of different variations that happen at this point, but most of the time there's something different that happens. It helps us to sort of break this predictable pattern of verses and choruses. So we break off and have a solo, and then we might have some more stuff. We might have a different section that sometimes comes in at this point, but then also we might just have the chorus again. And we repeat that maybe twice. And so this is kind of a blueprint for anyone that might want to write a pop song, as they know that the audience has certain ideas about how the music is going to unfold. And that's really what we're talking about when we start to look at form. We're looking at ways that we can break up big long pieces of music, and sometimes we're talking about a symphony that might last for an hour or even longer, into kind of recognizable sections, and we can sort of chart the piece out. We're trying to map out the piece, if you like, into some slightly smaller sections that sit somewhere between the level that is melodies and chords, and also the whole expanse of the entire piece. And hopefully that will help us to make sense of the music on some level. Why would we learn about form? Well, actually, it can be really helpful if we want to be composers, but also if we just want to play music, because it helps us get an idea of how the music is put together in these big building blocks. I mean, say, for example, you're performing a John Bon Jovi song, you know that you're going to have to put most of your energy into making sure the chorus lands with an enormous emotional impact, because that's the whole point of these pop songs, is often that the chorus is something that's very memorable, and it's very emotive, and it makes the audience really sit up and listen. So the next time you hear a pop song, why not try and break it down in your mind into some of these recognizable building blocks, like verses and choruses. Hopefully it'll help you understand the way that songs put together a lot better, and also you'll have started to think about form and how it works in music.